Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Let's talk about the state of Oklahoma, where I'm from. Now, our governor, Mary Fallin, or I guess my former governor, Mary Fallin, she's done some good things over the years. She passed a law stating that in the case of emergency, the feds can't come in there and confiscate guns like they did during Hurricane Katrina. And now we have this. Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin has vowed that a Ten Commandments statue on Capitol grounds, which the state Supreme Court recently ruled as unconstitutional, will remain through appeal. Coco reports. That's the local news affiliate. And basically her argument is this isn't a state monument. Yes, it's on state Capitol grounds, but it's being funded by independent group, being maintained by independent group, and thus it is not a official state endorsement of any religion. Now, people say they want to have statues of the devil, and they've had other things going on out there. But thus far, the 10 Commandments remain, and we'll see if that continues as the days go on. Now let's talk about something else that has remained high: gun sales. Now you'll see a poll here, you see a poll there. Americans hate guns, they want to get rid of the guns. And I'm always curious where these polls come from, because I'm like, nobody asked me. They said, you want to keep your guns? I said, oh, hell yeah, I want to keep my guns. And now we see that everybody else is getting in on the action as well, or at least enough people. Because now even CNN is reporting that you had a huge spike in gun sales in the month of June. And it says we have a 11% spike in June compared to the last year, making this the busiest June ever. And this is according to the FBI's own background check data. Because that's what they'll tell you. Well, we asked, 10 people in, this state that hates guns, how they feel about guns, and 9 out of 10 said they hate guns. But if you actually look at hard numbers, you look at sales figures, you look at the FBI background checks, you can see that the gun sales are up and in high demand. And as we're speaking about CNN, a former CNN anchor was very appreciative of the Second Amendment here recently when they had to use a firearm to protect their lives.
Russell tells it like this. She says the robber got angry when the couple took too long to gather up everything he wanted to steal, and a shootout started between the robber and DeCaro. Her husband ended up shooting and killing the robber. DeCaro was shot 3 times but is expected to live. Police haven't said if they believe the robber randomly picked the well-known couple or if he was targeting them for some reason. While Russell is shaken up, she wants everyone to know her husband is a hero.
Now, oftentimes when we talk about firearms, people will point out the city of Chicago, which, yes, does have a very high ratio of gun violence. But you have to understand these crimes most often are committed around gangs and drugs, people who have committed multiple felonies before they ever pull the trigger. And now we have a sad story out of San Francisco of somebody who was deported multiple times before he ended up taking somebody's life.
Joe Biggs with Infowars.com. Now, a law enforcement official says that the weapon used in the shooting death of a woman in San Francisco this past week belonged to a federal agent. Now, this is the bizarre twist in a case that has become already a flashpoint in this country's debate over immigration. Now, time and time again, Infowars has gone to the border, shown you that it's wide open. We've shown our federal agents purchasing tickets to get these illegals bust to parts unknown around America. And then one of the things we were talking about as well is how they're not being documented whatsoever. They're not being properly processed. They're not showing up to their court dates and are just essentially being left out there unwatched, not knowing what's really going on. And a lot of these people are felons, much like with the case with Juan Francisco Lopez Sanchez, who had been deported 5 times back to Mexico and is suspected of living in the United States illegally when Catherine Steinel, 32, was gunned down last week while on an evening stroll with her father along San Francisco's popular waterfront area. Now, federal officials transferred Sanchez to San Francisco's jail in March to face a 20-year-old marijuana charge after Sanchez had just completed his latest prison term for illegally entering the country. But, you get people up in Washington saying, oh, it's okay, these guys are great members of our society. And I'm sure that there's a lot that are, but there's a lot who aren't, and we need to crack down on those people. Now, the San Francisco sheriff cited that the city is a sanctuary city and released Sanchez in April after prosecutors dropped the drug charges, despite an Immigration and Customs Enforcement request to hold him for federal authorities to go into a deportation proceeding. Now, Sanchez pleaded not guilty Tuesday to a first-degree murder charge. He told 2 television stations who interviewed him in jail that he found the gun used in Steinel's killing wrapped in a shirt on the pedestrian pier she was walking on. Sanchez said that the gun went off in his hands, and his public defender, Matt Gonzalez, said Tuesday that the San Francisco woman's death appeared to be accidental. Now, is this another case of gun walking or letting guns walk, or simply just another mistake of a federal agent just happening to leave his firearm somewhere and a illegal alien just happened to pick it up and shoot and kill someone? Well, we do know that gun walking was a tactic used by the ATF, which ran a series of sting operations between 2006 and 2011. This is where the ATF purposely allowed firearms dealers to sell weapons to illegal straw buyers, hoping to track them back to Mexican drug cartel leaders and arrest them. Now, these operations were done under the umbrella of Project Gunrunner, a project intended to stem the flow of firearms into Mexico by interdicting straw purchases and gun traffickers within the United States. Now, during Operation Fast and Furious, the largest gun walking probe, the ATF monitored the sale of about 2,000 firearms. Now, of that 2,000, only 710 were actually recovered as of February 2012. A number of those straw purchases have been arrested and indicted. However, as of October 2011, none of the targeted high-level cartel figures have been arrested. Guns tracked by the ATF have been found at crime scenes on both sides of Mexico and U.S. border, and the scene where the United States Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, where he was killed in December 2010 by one of those guns. Now, we have to continuously keep going down to the border, showing people this proof that the border is wide open. The fact that our government is shipping this in, this is a planned event. This doesn't just happen by accident. This is completely done by design by the Obama administration. Once again, I'm Joe Biggs with Infowars.com, and I think we should demand gun control for the government.
And on this topic of guns, we recently had the president come out and say that groups like ISIS will not be defeated by more weaponry. Now, we all know that the United States, as well as other Western governments, have been supplying these groups for quite some time. Of course, we saw very famously the airdrop grenades last year, but now we have this article from Kurt Nimmo. Pentagon recruits 60 moderate Syrian rebels, paying $9 million to train each one. Last year, the Pentagon went before a congressional hearing and said it needed $500 million to train moderate rebels in the fight to overthrow the government of Assad. The money would go to 2,300 rebels who were supposedly vetted and not connected to Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, or ISIS. But as we know, we've been talking about for a very long time here at Infowars.com, these guys have sworn their allegiance to Al-Qaeda, to ISIS, to these various other groups, and they oftentimes get the weapons that are meant to supposedly overthrow Assad. I'm not saying Assad's a good guy, but you're giving weapons to people who are out there cutting out people's vital organs, ripping them out like a episode of Mortal Kombat. You can look these things up for yourself. They're going to Christian villages and burning down the churches and running people over, chopping people's heads off. We see those videos all the time. And this is what's happening when we're giving our weapons to these different type of groups. And that's why you can't just be airdropping grenades in AK-47s and all these other things and training people, because you don't know exactly what they're going to do once you leave or once you leave them to their own devices. And for more on this, we have a video that we produced done by Darren McBreen called Killing ISIS. You can find the full video on YouTube on the Alex Jones channel.
Used since before the days of the Roman Empire to support the body's natural systems and enhance overall health. Introducing the new InfoWarsLife.com oil of oregano formulation, a highly advanced nutraceutical form of this key herb that has been traditionally used by civilizations for thousands of years to promote health. We have now procured the most high quality and potent forms of oregano oil on the market, sourced from top leading manufacturers to ensure a concentrated level of bioactive ingredients, extracted directly from the wild herb and sealed in easy-to-use capsules. You will no longer need to endure the burning of liquid oregano on the tongue. Wild crafted from the Mediterranean oregano species that experts agree is one of the most powerful and most challenging to acquire. This winter season, it's more important than ever to secure this true form of oil of oregano. Now available in our limited first run at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.